Hello everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Noor's Niche. My name is Hadia Noor. I am the Noor within the niche of the title. You know, the intention here is that this podcast doesn't stay in the archives. It actually sees the light of day. So I guess to start out, what is Noor's Niche? Noor's Niche is a little passion project that I have been wanting to do for a couple of months now. And then the opportunity came to me to give me the right motivation. I'm in my senior year and we're doing our senior capstone this quarter, and this is gonna be all over the place. This is not structured or organized, but that's the beauty of a podcast, is that it doesn't necessarily need to be structured or organized, or you can come up with your own structure and your own organization of how it's gonna work, right? Ignore the stain. Please ignore the stain. If you're just listening, there's a stain on my gray hoodie. Just pretend like it's, well, if you're listening, then you don't even need to know that. I don't really know. Okay. Anyways, I'm in my senior year and I'm doing my senior capstone, and I'm a communications and media journalist. I'm a communications and media major specializing in journalism and strategic communication, which is like PR, marketing, media, social media, that kind of stuff. So our capstone is supposed to be an artifact that we create that is like the culmination of what we've learned in college. So I was like, this is a great opportunity for me to do my podcast, because our project can be whatever we want it to be. So that was kind of the what got the ball rolling, is this class. But okay, let me lay it out. Let's lay out the framework for how Noor's Niche is gonna work. Basically, I was really struggling with trying to figure out, because I have a very specific topic that I wanted to cover for my capstone, but I didn't necessarily want that to be the only topic that I cover within this podcast, because past this quarter I still want to keep doing the podcast. So this idea that I have come up with, Noor's Niche, is that every couple months or so, some might be longer, some might be shorter, is that I have a very niched subject or topic that I delve into and look into within a mini podcast series within the podcast. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So for instance, let me introduce you to our very first Noor's Niche. In a nutshell, the first niche that we are going to be looking at is how the rise in material consumerism is affecting hijabi culture. Bam, scene. Okay, that is what we're doing. So for the next couple of months, all the episodes are going to be revolving around this topic of hijabi consumerism culture. Okay? So this is just the introduction episode. I don't want to get too into the topic, because that's what the other episodes are for. This is just an intro to tell you how this is gonna work, what it means, and then I do want to give some context. Hijab has been around for a hot minute. It has been around for a hot minute, but I feel like within the last 10-ish years, it's been gaining a lot more visibility in the world, and mainstream visibility is what I am focusing on. And kind of that, like, that rise in mainstream culture, like incorporating hijabis and hijabi models, hijabi culture, hijab material. I feel like that is restructuring the way that the world is seeing hijab and the way that we're seeing hijab. And it's really cool, honestly. I mean, like, part of it is like, it's so cool to see. Like, I feel like almost I am relearning about hijab and also relearning to love hijab in a way. Obviously, this podcast, we're going to look at the negative things, we're going to look at the positive things, we're going to look at the in-between things. But as a whole phenomenon, I just think it is it's so interesting. There's just so much, like, it's just, you know, like those everyday conversations you're having with your friends. It's like, there's so much to say about this. You don't realize the power that a piece of cloth holds. And if you just think about it, not even in the hijabi world, like, if you just think about, like, the way that, like, we wake up and we choose what we're gonna wear for the day, like, we don't realize the implications that has, you know? Like, it goes so much further beyond just choosing to wear sweats one day and not choosing to wear sweats one day, choosing to wear a modal hijab and choosing to wear a jersey hijab, right? Like, these tiny little everyday things that we might not that we just are casually doing, we don't give it a lot of weight in our everyday lives. They hold so much weight, right? Because it's something that billions of people, thousands of people are doing all around the world. The history of hijab is a very long one, and I also wanted to just acknowledge the fact that, like, even before, like, historically written, like, pre-Islamic times, like pre-Hijra, basically, right? The concept of modesty is not a new one, okay? I feel like this is something that within our modern times, we treat it like it's, oh my god, like, why are you covering up? Like, modesty is seen as, and obviously it's different wherever you go, but I feel like as a whole, like, culturally, like, mainstream wise, like, modesty has not been in. I think it's making a little bit of a comeback, low-key, but, like, it's not a mainstream ideal right now. Anyways, I was doing some research. A few things that I found is that, like, in ancient Greece, ancient, like, Mesopotamian times, Roman times, there is a lot of history recorded of women wearing veils, veiling themselves as a symbol of their status, as a symbol of their high status. So during these times, women would wear veils or cover themselves if they were of, like, high noble blood, and they would wear those when they would go out as a physical status, as a physical symbol of their status. And like lower class, poor class women, like, it didn't matter if you had the accessibility to a veil. I feel like you would probably be at the rank that is needed for a veil to symbolize that you are of that status. But, like, there was literally this concept throughout history of a physical barrier between a woman as a way to show their privilege and protect their honor. And, like, obviously, like, throughout time, like, when women got married, they would veil their heads, and it was a status of their marital status and their modesty of being a woman of a house. And just throughout history, like, you can see the themes of women and modesty and veiling as something that was highly regarded. And so veils have this, like, physical and spiritual role, right? Like, throughout time, now and throughout time, as, like, physically you would go out and you're showing people, I am of high blood, and now today I am a Muslim. And spiritually, it is also something that, like, culturally is significant and also religiously is significant. Like religiously for Muslim women, it is something that we have to internalize as something that we are doing in the name of God, right? And so the people who look at it as this is like a straight, easy thing to understand or to comprehend, like I feel like that is almost doing a disservice to what hijab is. And something like this, something like this requires us to learn about it and to become knowledgeable about it, because especially if we are the women who are wearing the hijab, like I feel like it's a responsibility to ourselves and to Allah to know what we are a part of. One like special mention that I want to put in here as I was doing my research is I was reading up on the Iranian Revolution, the Islamic Revolution within Iran, and how the old Shah made it required that you couldn't made it required. That's not proper grammar. Yes, guys, I am doing journalism, but the old Shah, they didn't allow women to wear hijabs, and I think there's like accounts of police like forcibly removing hijabs. After the Islamic Revolution, I think that was in 1980, they reversed that rule and they required women to wear hijabs no matter what your religion is, no matter what your beliefs are. And I was just reading about how the Iranian women like engaged in like political activism during this time, and I just think it's such a good example of how you can see the weight that a simple piece of cloth holds, and how these things like are so easily weaponized or politicized, and it's really important for all of us to hold strong regard. I just think that it is so cool, like reading throughout times how like women so strongly, like not even just voicing their opinions, but like they were so intentional with the things that they did. Like during like post the Islamic Revolution, I read some articles about how Iranian women were like, before then they would wear a lot of like Western style clothing, and that became their cultural norm. But then after the revolution, they had to like throw all of that out because you would literally get thrown into prison. And like how like over time they would do little tweaks of their outfits or of their hijabs, like sliding your hair back a little bit to just test out the limits and the power that they had. Their physical image was being controlled, and I just think that that is so like, it's so powerful to read about that. But anyways, let's talk about now. Let's talk about current times. Obviously, within, like I said earlier, within like the last decade, hijab has become mainstream. Okay, like we've got models like Iman Hammam, is that her name? Iman Hammam, something like that. Oh, you have like Rhoda Muhammad. I love her. See, she's this Somali Norwegian Muslim hijabi model, and she's done some crazy big like catwalks and like media campaign, like fashion campaigns, and so like we are becoming visible. I read in an article where this designer Renee Hill, she told ABC that like hijab is now a permanent part of fashion. the journey of it and the role of it might still be evolving and is continuously going to evolve, but like it's not gonna leave. Like we are here and we are here to stay. I don't know if Renee Hill is actually Muslim, but that was just something that she said. And I totally agree. I think that like I literally like you see Muslim hijabi models like in Vogue, in like an H&M brand, or like the Nike, like they made the sports hijab or whatever. And so like sure, the sports hijab, like in my opinion, I think is extremely ugly, but like even when it came out, everyone was just so excited. Like even if you couldn't afford it, even if that wasn't something that you were like planning on getting, like everyone was just so excited. Like I remember, like that was a while ago, but I just remembered like the excitement of that coming out was so crazy. And I guess talking about like, okay, my own hijab journey, I started wearing hijab in 6th grade. It was actually literally like so I homeschooled up until 5th grade. Guys, I promise I'm not like a weird homeschooled girl, okay? Like I'm normal. But so 6th grade, I went to a private Montessori school, and it was literally like the first couple of days had passed, maybe like the first week had passed. We had literally had like picture day. So I had like my pictures taken and everything. And then I got my period, and I started wearing hijab the next day. And this is when I was like 12, right? Yeah, 12 or 13. And I just started wearing it, and I've been wearing it since then. So it's been 8 years now. And you know, like alhamdulillah, like I am happy with the choice that I made to immediately start wearing it. And obviously, like it was not easy, for sure. I think that I went into it thinking it was gonna be easy, or I was just really excited to finally like be part of that group of girls. So it's like we wear hijab now, you know. But then like it definitely like I went to public school for 7th and 8th grade, and I was the only hijabi in my entire middle school. There were a few other Muslims, but I was the only hijabi, and that was like something that, you know, I really tried hard not to let it bother me. I almost made it like part of my identity, like my public identity to everyone, that like, hey, like I'm the only hijabi here, right? Like it was something that I didn't like. In order to cope with how hard it was, I like didn't shy away from it, you know. Like if someone kind of said something, I'd be like, oh yeah, because like I'm the only hijabi and I'm a brown girl in this like predominantly white school. And so I think like throughout life, that's what I've done, is like I've like publicly embraced it as a way to like hide the fact that like I was deeply insecure about it. And not deeply insecure about it, but just like, God, like I just wanted to fit in so bad, as any 7th grader wants to, as any middle schooler wants to. And I definitely think that like the structure that middle school girls have today with the culture of vela and veiled, like, I mean, alhamdulillah for them, because they have this built community that is, you know, pushing this idea of like, and obviously we'll get into the qualms of this later on, but like having that community of a vela, of being a vela girl, I think at the core of it is allowing these girls to have a much easier time to get through these times, which would otherwise be very hard. Especially in we live in such a materialistic world, right? And I feel like that just dictates so much of how our life goes. Anyways, what was I saying about myself? Yeah. So like, and then also there was this thing where in 7th grade, I took the bus, and I was sitting next to someone, and then there were 2 boys behind me, and you know, everyone's just, it's at the end of the day, we're going home, and everyone's just kind of like, you know, joking around, having fun. And the guy behind me, he like, I don't know, he's like reaching over the seat and trying to talk to us or something, and then all of a sudden I like feel some air on like the top of my head, and I'm like, what the heck is happening? And he had like pulled my hijab back, and like, wallah, like I don't really know what his intention was, but like my hijab came off, and I was kind of just like, oh my god, like what the heck? And the girl next to me was like, okay, and then I like pulled it back up, and I was like, what? And like, honestly, I think I like blocked out what happened after, because I don't really remember what exactly happened immediately after. I think I was kind of just like, okay, that happened. And here's the silly part, is the kid was Muslim. He was Muslim too, at least. Yeah, like he was Muslim. I knew he was Muslim. And so I was just kind of like, okay, like I don't really know what just happened. Like I'm just like, okay. And then I went home, and my Quran teacher was over, and I was like, hey, like let's say hypothetically this happened, like is that like okay? And she was like, hello, like no, that is not okay whatsoever. And then we told my parents, and then it like became this whole thing. Like they went to the school, and they were like, what the heck happened, like what is going on? And I think they talked to the kid, and they talked to me. I don't really know what the outcome of that was, but yeah, that's just like an experience that I had. That's actually what I wrote my college essay on. I don't know, my relationship with hijab, like even then it was like, when that happened in the bus, I was trying to make excuses on both levels. One level, I was trying to make excuses for him, because I was like, he's literally a Muslim, like this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And then on the other hand, I was making excuses that it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Like it's just, you know, like it's not a big deal. It's just my hijab. But then as I'm like later, like I'm thinking about it, and like low-key, like I should go back and read my essay. Like what was my essay? Like what did I say in there? What were my reflections? And looking back at it, I'm like, no, like that is not the response that a girl should have if something like this happens to her. Like we should not, I think I felt that I needed to minimize it, because I didn't want to draw any more attention to being an outsider. You know, I didn't want to other myself. And so like obviously when I told my mom, like she was like, what the hell, like that's not okay. And so they did the due diligence of checking up on what they needed to check on with the school and that family or whatever. But for myself, I kind of like, it took me a while to realize that like it was okay for me to be like angry or saddened or disappointed by that to the level that was needed, and not needing to like shove it under the carpet. Hold on, I'm trying to find my essay now. Wait, this is like low-key really good. Like the story is sad, but like this is, I forgot I could write well. Okay, wait, guys, my essay was low-key fire. Okay, wait, let me read you just a few things that I wrote. Okay, wait, this is the intro paragraph. Trust is a fickle thing, a quality which requires faith in others to uphold basic moral values and treat you with respect. Growing up in an Islamic community, trust was a silent bond between diverse groups. We saw everyone, regardless of personal connection, as family, being each other's brothers and sisters in faith. I grew up shielded from the ugly by my parents whilst exposed to every good and kind environment, ingrained with the belief that the world was a promising place. However, life can present you with moments that shatter the trust that once brought you safety and comfort. And then I wrote, it started on a bus ride home, my friend and I laughing at the commotion of students as we took our seats, trading silly stories as the smell of marshland blanketed us in cheer. Yet any comfort I felt was gone as his hands reached over with no hesitation, yanking my hijab down in one swift motion. My head jerked backward to get a look at the culprit, and I realized he wore the same flag of faith over his heart, a brother in Islam I had thought I could count on. I rushed to turn around, confused and hurt at the interaction, a sense of discomfort and betrayal entering my body. At that moment, he had taken the safety of the world I believed in along with my hijab. Bars, bars, bars. Who wrote that? Who wrote that? Hadia Noor. Oh, welcome to Noor's niche. Yeah, so that's something that happened to me, and I definitely think that was a pivotal moment in my hijab journey, because like I also wrote, I was like, for the next few weeks, the administration repeatedly questioned me, patronizing my responses and making me question the trust I put in those who were supposed to protect and support me. Damn. I refused to discount the gravity of the situation and allow the administration, my perpetrator, to take away my trust in those values. Yeah, so obviously, like, this is me writing it years after it happened, but like I definitely think that overcoming that sense of hesitancy towards taking full grasp of the gravity of that moment, it really allowed me to sit more comfortably in my identity as a hijabi and really taking confidence in my hijab and like just owning it and being like, yeah, you know what, like I made this decision to wear this and to hold this as a physical status of my faith, and I'm not gonna let anyone discount that, and I'm not gonna let you take that away from me, etc., etc. So anyways, that was just one little story that's a little bit about me and about my hijab journey. You guys liking my this is like feeling, do you guys like my ghost blanket? Yeah, anyways, that's just a little intro to me, to my journey, and a little snippet into what the next couple of episodes are gonna be. The episodes aren't going to be released in like the order. There's no order to how they're going to be released. I want to make that clear. There's no like hierarchy of what I'm putting out, like what I think is the most important and stuff like that. It's just a whole bunch of different POVs and a whole bunch of different thoughts and ideas, and there's really no structure to it because you have the center of the topic, which is hijab, and then these are all things stemming from it. It all leads back to hijab. I do want to establish Islamically hijab is. So hijab was revealed in Surah Noor, actually, right? Yeah, Surah Noor. That's literally crazy. Okay, so the verse that was revealed came from Surah Noor. I can read it. I can recite it. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ وَيَخْفَضْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُورِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ ولا يبدين زينتهن إلا لبعولتهن أو آبائهن أو آباء بعولتهن أو أبنائهن أو أبناء بعولتهن أو إخوانهن أو بني إخوانهن أو بني أخواتهن أو نسائهن أو ما ملكت أيمانهن أو التابعين غير أولي الإربة من الرجال أو الطفل الذين لم يظهروا على عورات النساء ولا يضربن بأرجلهن ليعلم ما يخفين من زينتهن وتوبوا إلى الله جميعا أيها المؤمنون لعلكم تفلحون. And tell the believing women to lower their gaze and guard their chastity and not to reveal their adornments except what normally appears. Let them draw their veils over their chest and not reveal their hidden adornments except to their husbands, their fathers, their fathers-in-law, their sons, their stepsons, their brothers' sons or sisters' sons, their fellow women, those bondwomen in their possession, male attendants with no desire, or children who are still unaware of women's nakedness. Let them not stomp their feet, drawing attention to their hidden adornments. Turn to Allah in repentance altogether, O believers, so that you may be successful. So, when this ayah was revealed, this is the revealment of hijab. And I believe like during that time, they literally just like when this ayah was revealed, the women literally grabbed the nearest cloth and just covered themselves. And obviously everyone has their own journey with hijab, and I'm not putting that down whatsoever, but let's be so clear, hijab is a mandate from Allah. It is a requirement of all Muslim women. Once you get your period, that you have to wear your hijab in front of non-mahram. Non-mahram are men who are not your father, not your brother, not your husband, your brother-in-law, right? Or no, not brother-in-law, your father-in-law, your son, your stepsons, and then like your brother's sons, your sister's sons, and then other women. So that's just like the basis of what hijab is that we have to cover ourselves. It is a requirement, but everyone has their own journey of how it goes along, and we each have our own stories, and we each have our own challenges. And that's what this podcast is going to look at, this first series of Noor's Niche. I am extremely excited. I cannot wait to get on here with the rest of, it's mostly just my friends, because, you know, choosing this topic is because it's a personal thing for me. It's also something that is a larger world conversation. But who better to bring onto a yapping podcast than my yapping friends? And each of them already has an idea of what they all want to talk about, and everyone is super excited, and I am super excited. And yeah, I hope you're excited. And yeah, that's the intro. That's our intro, yo. If you're listening, thank you for listening. If you're watching, thanks for watching. Yeah, and thank you for listening along to my blabbering. I hope it made sense. I hope it wasn't too all over the place. But yeah, I will see you in the next episode.